Hey everybody, this is Josh. You may know me as Joshawott 0414, the creator of Joshawott, the Power of Eevee. So, I've been working on the sequel for this game for quite a little bit now, but recently while I was working, a random anonymous fan decided to have a Q&A with me, which was actually pretty interesting. So, because I wanted him to remain anonymous, I'm going to be using a text-to-speech kind of program to help with the questions.
Hello, I am an anonymous Joshawott, the Power of Eevee fan. I am here to ask some questions about your game.
So yes, this is the Samantha voice that I'm using for the text-to-speech program, and she's going to be helping me with the questions that the anonymous fan has asked, and I'm sure a lot of you probably have the same questions as well.
Enough talking. Time for asking questions.
Alright then, fire away.
Question number 1. Why is Oshawott the icon you use as your imaginary Pokemon character?
Well, about that. My first ever Pokemon game was back when I was still in college. I was playing Pokemon Black. So yes, of the Pokemon Black and White games, I chose the Black version because I liked Reshiram better than Zekrom. But more to the point, Oshawott was actually my first starter Pokemon. And when I started with him as my starter, I've had a connection with him ever since. So, I thought I'd try out the Pokemon games when I got bored in college. So, ever since I played Pokemon Black and White, I've been quite a big Pokemon fan, and I've played most of the other games ever since.
Why didn't you play Pokemon when it first came out as red and blue versions?
Well, I was born in 1994, and I think Pokemon came out in 1990 when it was the red and blue versions, so it'd be pretty hard to play something even though you aren't born yet.
Question number 2. Why use Oshawott for your main protagonist in the game? Wouldn't Eevee have been a better choice?
Well, about that, I thought it would be too cliche if Eevee was the main protagonist because I've seen a few of the bits of artwork online with Eevee being in the middle and the evolutions being around it. So I decided to go in a different direction. I saw in the anime how Meowth could talk, and I feel like if a Meowth could talk, why can't an Oshawott talk? I also saw how an Oshawott talked in the commercial for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, which was my first Pokemon Dungeons game. And so that's how I came up with Joshawott, the boss Pokemon of Team Aqua. So yeah, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity has had a huge inspiration on what kind of characters I've created for the Pokemon universe, in my opinion. I also thought it'd be pretty good, and it's a kind of a good fit as well, considering I put Tepping in the game as well.
I still think Eevee would have been a better choice.
Well, you're not the one making the game, are you?
Question number 3. Was the twist ending up Thompig being the main villain always planned, or was that a last-second addition?
Oh yeah, speaking of Teppigs, my best friend also came up with an idea because his favorite Unova starter was Teppig. He called his starter Thompig, and declared to be the boss Pokemon of Team Magma. Since Team Magma and Team Aqua are rival teams in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, this seemed like the perfect opportunity to make Thompig the final boss. Plus, I think in my opinion, every story does need a plot twist.
Plot twist. All humans are actually Pokemon if you think about it.
Whoa, I never thought about it like that before.
Question number 4. Why is Eevee seen in a cage in the corner of the Meowth boss fight?
Well, the thing about that is because Thompig kept him there for making more evolution clones later. So that would also explain why you could see the evolutions in the tanks in Rocket Base Level 3, and why you face the evolutions again in Rocket Base Level 5.
Eevee deserves to be free. Hashtag free Eevee. Question number 5. Out of all the Eevee bosses, which one is your favorite and why?
Yeah, I had a feeling this question was going to come sooner or later, so I'll tell you. I actually have two favorites in two different categories. Design-wise, I would probably say Umbreon, because not only do I like the fact that his rings glow at night, but he's also the only evolution that has the more unique kind of eyes, whereas the other evolutions are all one eye color, and Umbreon has like red ones with black slits in the middle, thus you can kind of tell if he's looking at you or not. But if I had to say, if I had to use one in an actual Pokemon battle, I'd probably say Vaporeon, because not only does Vaporeon have an ability called Water Absorb, which can heal it if a water-type move is used on it, it has good HP stats, and can also learn Aqua Ring, a move that can heal its HP over time.
I prefer Flareon. It's just so fluffy and cute.
You do know that the Pokemon community has consider Flareon to be the worst evolution, right?
You're not the judge of me. Question number 6. What part of making the game was the hardest part?
I would have to say that coding the game was probably the hardest part. What I did is I used a game engine called Super Mega Engine by Wrecking Programs, and that was later modified by another user. That's someone else to help me understand the main mechanics of the game. So yeah, when I first started on this game, I had no knowledge of Game Maker Studio whatsoever. Yeah, when I got into it, I had to learn quite a few things just to get something to move or jump. So, in my opinion, coding for the bosses was probably the hardest because each boss has to have its own unique way to battle. And figuring all that out probably took me at least, I don't know, I'd probably say like 3 weeks or so.
I don't see why. Coding is super easy for me.
Well, that should be obvious. You're a computer.
Question number 7. Out of all the stages, which one had the most development hiccups and why?
Well, I'd probably have to say that Espeon stage was the hardest because, well, seeing in the Mega Man games that there are no Psychic-type robot masters in the classic series of Mega Man, so I had to choose from what there was. Eventually, I decided to go with Snake Man stage because the parts that look like you're walking on the bodies of snakes also kind of look like tubes. So, with a little color swapping from green to pink, I made it, or magenta more likely, I made it look more like Espeon is fighting you by playing with your mind. So, it kind of looks like you're going through your own mind in that stage. So, I made it kind of look like brain tubes, or vessels, or whatever they're called. So, when you're in Espeon stage, you're inside your own mind, because it's all an illusion, a mind trick.
You know what they say, mind over matter. Question number 8. Out of all the power-ups gotten from defeating the Eevee bosses, which one is your favorite and why?
That would definitely have to be Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade allows you to shoot 3 individual projectiles instead of 1. So it kind of works like Blade Man's Triple Blade. Plus, it can be very handy in Sylveon stage. Trust me.
That doesn't seem to make sense, but I guess I'll ask about that later. Question number 9. Are there any improvements you will make on the original game?
Actually, yes. I am planning to go back and add just a few more things in the first game, such as downsizing Vaporeon, making Tompig's fight harder, and a few other minor bugs.
Why can't you just fix them now?
Well, I'm kind of busy with a bunch of things, unlike you, so yeah, I've got my job, my family, and the second game, the sequel, to work on, so yeah. There's a lot of things going on in my life right now. Plus, the whole COVID-19 thing is, well, you know how it is.
Question number 10. Does the sequel to the game do anything different than the first game?
Well, it will mostly be the same, except that I will say that the final boss is not who you expect. And I will also say one feature that was not in the first game will be available in the sequel. As to what that feature is, well, that's kind of a spoiler, so I'm just going to say that you will have to play the sequel to find out.
Spoiler alert. The next question is about humans.
Why'd you have to do that? You can't just give it away like that.
Question number 11. Why is Giovanni the only human shown in the game?
Well, that's actually a funny story. I was running out of boss ideas after I had finished making the Mewtwo boss fight. But then I thought to myself, this is Team Rocket's base, so why not just add the boss of Team Rocket himself? So I just had to add Giovanni then. And since he's also a gym leader in Viridian, I think. Yeah, Viridian City. So, because he's also a gym leader, I made his boss fight use mostly ground-type Pokemon. Originally, I was also going to add Jesse and James too, since Meowth was in it, but, well, I couldn't really find a place that they could fit into the game. Plus, in my opinion, they were probably too busy trying to catch Ash's Pikachu to actually care about stopping Joshawott.
So they were too busy protecting the world from devastation and uniting all peoples within their nation?
Yep. They're denouncing the evils of truth and love and extending their reach to the stars above. You know how those two are.
Question number 12. What was the intended order for the player to take out the Eevee bosses?
Well, to be honest, they can actually be taken out in any order you choose. But if you want to start with the weakest one and then use the powers from there, the order I would recommend is Flareon, Glaceon, Leafeon, Sylveon, Umbreon, Espeon, Jolteon, and then Vaporeon. But like I said before, it does not actually matter which order you take them out in. They can be played in any order you choose. So if you want to try a different order or try yourself up for a challenge, you can take them out in a different order than what I suggest.
Question number 13. Besides the sequel, do you have any plans for other games or large projects planned out?
Well, other than the sequel, I do have some other ideas in my imagination, but since they aren't allowed to be fan games considering how big the projects are, it would be virtually impossible for me to create them by myself. Also, since Nintendo and Game Freak haven't introduced any new Pokemon types, the sequel may be the last of the Joshawott fan games in the line, unfortunately.
I'm going to miss these games once it's over. Sigh.
Well, don't worry. If you happen to know anybody that can help me out with some larger projects, I'd be happy to oblige.
Question number 14. What was the inspiration behind the sequel? Why make a second game?
Well, I felt like the game's story would be incomplete without the other Pokemon types in it, like Dragon, Flying, and the other ones. So, since there were no other official evolutions in the Pokemon games yet, even though I was hoping for some in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and with all the artwork of the other evolutions online, I felt like those types should at least be given a chance. I did hold a special poll on the game's download page on GameJolt on which types people wanted to see, but regardless of what they voted, all the remaining types will be in the sequel, one way or the other, just so people can enjoy all the rest of the types that didn't get to be in the first game.
Hooray! I will finally get to battle a bug-type Eevee boss.
Well, about that.
Question number 15. What is the possible release date for the sequel?
Well, to be honest, I don't really have a specific date in mind, as the game is still in very early development. I'm still trying to make out this. Well, right now I'm working on the stage development for the stages of the Wily-like bosses. So, yeah, once I finish those up, I'm going to go back to the first game and finish the minor bugs on the first game. But since I don't think there will be a specific release date for a while, I'm probably going to say that it might take me till the end of 2021 before it will be finished. But don't quote me on that.
If the game gets released late, I will hunt you down and gut you like a Magikarp.
Well, I'd like to see you try.
Question number 16. Did you experience any funny glitches or quirks when making the game?
Quite a few, actually. When I did my first test of the game wouldn't even start up. That's how bad the first version was. Test number 2 and 3 were not much better. Number 6, 12, 34, 68, etc. They all ended the same way. Over time, a lot of different things happened, like the enemies clipping through walls and other crazy things like that. It took me many tests of the game to figure out a lot of things, and even when the game was released for the first time, people still found some bugs that I missed, like Sylveon not being downsized enough, or some of the enemies were still clipping through walls for some reason. So yeah. Also, when I play games, I notice a lot of games nowadays usually still have some bugs when they first release. Even some companies like Nintendo, EA, and some other games like that, yeah, they still have some few bugs in them when they're first released. And mine was no different when it comes to that.
We don't want bugs. Just keep testing the game until there isn't any and then release it.
Well, that's usually what the toxic fans say, but sometimes we just overlook things, you know?
Question number 17. Why implement a password system instead of a normal saving system?
Well, until Megaman 9, I think it was, the classic Megaman games have always used a password system. Plus, I ran into problems when trying to add the save and load system when using it through the internet. Like, sometimes the game would glitch out when I'd try to save a game or load a game when trying to download it over the internet. So I stuck with the password system, especially since when you game over or finish an evolution stage, it brings you back to the password screen anyway. So, in my opinion, the password screen was probably the easier and safer choice.
But it's hard to memorize all those different passwords.
Well, there's a thing called taking a picture on your computer that you could do.
Question number 18. Why is Sylveon weak to Leaf Blade? Wouldn't a poison or steel type move be more effective?
Well, about that. Sylveon is weak to Leaf Blade because there were no official poison or steel type evolutions. So, out of all the evolution bosses, most of them still follow their elemental weaknesses, except for two of them, which are Sylveon and Jolteon. So yeah, Jolteon's weakness was changed to Psyshock because there were no official ground type evolutions. So yeah, it mostly follows all the Pokemon logic, but some things had to be improvised.
This game doesn't follow any Pokemon logic at all. It's kind of annoying.
Well, excuse me.
Question number 19. Are you proud of your game?
Well, of course I am. This was my first official game I've ever made, and it was pretty fun when I was working on it and playing on it as well. I mean, of course, everyone is always proud of their own creations, but there are always those people who aren't going to like it as much. Believe me, I've had a few of those. So yeah, they don't know that you poured your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and I'm sure some of those people will say that making it was a waste of your time. But don't let them bring you down. Remember, when you make something and show it to the world, you've got to learn to handle criticism. I mean, you know what they say. You are your best and worst critic.
You've been eating too many fortune cookies, haven't you?
Well, you know what they say. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
All right, that's it. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for asking the questions. And glad I could help you answer them out. Because I'm pretty sure a bunch of other fans out there probably had these questions as well. So, I think that's about all for now. So, thank you very much, and I will see you all later.